Okay, so my mount has yet to perform a meridian flip, it seems. And I believe this is probably the last exposure before it may do that. It has not been updating the display, it seems. I did a check on the first 7 or 8 images and saw that they were successive pairs of duplicate images. So I'm pretty certain we've got a stale display here once again, and I will need to find some way to forcibly change it after the meridian flip to confirm that I do in fact have the target centering and framing that I need. And it just started another capture, so I guess we're not quite to the flip. Let's see if I've got it programmed for an auto flip. I'm pretty sure I do. No, I don't. Okay, so that explains that. I reflashed the memory card again because I had issues earlier today. So I forgot. I guess the old image had default settings without the memory flip in there. So we'll let this image finish, and then I will pause it, enable meridian flip, and resume. I'll probably have to restart the Autorun actually. So probably what will happen is when I stop the Autorun, it will do a meridian flip to properly set up for the target without that being a commanded flip because of the sequencing. Our guiding's way off. I hadn't noticed that either. Have we lost tracking? Yes, we have. Okay, so something happened. We're going to have bad data images here, so let's just cancel our exposure. And we'll go out to preview. And let's see if we can just tell it to go to that location and have it auto flip. Yes. Now I suspect with this very short exposure it may not have enough star data to validate centering, but let's hope it does. Well, it seemed to see them. I really don't see how that's even possible because it can't transfer the data that fast from the camera. Yeah, so it's continuing to correct. It's continuing to try and correct the image, and that's just, it's impossible. The transfer from the camera cannot occur as quickly as the target validation is trying to do for it. So let's bump the camera ISO up. And see if that helps out with the problem. First, let's get another capture in here. Let's see what 2 seconds does for us. I don't expect it's really going to give that much data. But as I say, really the problem here is that not even enough time is being allowed by the ASIAir app for data transfer to be performed. Or, well, I don't know, maybe from the camera to the AAP it is fast enough because we've got the USB connection. It's just not fast enough to propagate on for display. And I'm not seeing any change of the screen. Let's go ahead and see if we can get guiding working for us. Okay. Now let's try a longer exposure. Go for 10 seconds. It does not appear that the screen is updating. Definitely know the screen as it appears right now is incorrect because when this flip was performed and the auto centering failed, it made corrections that would not have provided this same screen. So yeah, let's try exiting the app. We'll go clear the cache. Re-enter the app. Do another capture. We've got the same image back again. I'm certain of that. So I'm going to try something different, a different approach here. I'm going to switch back to the SD card. We're going to clear it out. Exit the app once again. I'm playing a hunch that these images are being sourced by the saved FITS files. And if it's trying, depending on how those are indexed, if it's got a explicit index that tells it to pull the image off of a particular card, then what we just did will not work. If it's a relative index, it may simply try to look on the SD card and see nothing, and therefore actually write the fresh data. It looks like the same information. So I'm going to try another approach. I will remove the USB card, the USB thumb drive, this will force it to default back to the SD card that we previously have cleared. So we should now see that there is no data available, and that does appear true. Let's go ahead and do a clear just to be sure. It says there's 0 gigabytes used. Exit the app. Flush the cache. I don't know if this storage cache, I mean, it's too small, I think, to be the image data, but maybe it is. Still looks like the same image. So what I'm going to do is slew the mount significantly. I'll slew it strictly in right ascension. Oop, it stalled out, so we got it as far as it can go, as it turns out. Well, tell you what, let's go home. I'd like to see if it goes back to a correct home position anyway. The last time I had these same problems, it came back about 10 or 15 degrees off of vertical from home position. Okay, this time it returned properly to the correct home, so that's good. Let's re-enable tracking. Come on, let's clear the screen too. Now the app seems frozen on me now. So I'm going to forcibly stop it. Return. Okay, let's check our status. We should not have tracking engaged, so we'll turn that on. And let's go ahead and just take a capture where we're at, home position, so we should pick up Polaris in the view. But we can't sync to it because you can't sync within that narrow space relative to Polaris. I'm just trying to find out if we get a fresh screen update now. And we don't. So this is again the problem repeating itself. We are oriented on Polaris, or the northern sky, but we are still getting a presentation of old data. So let's try deselecting the camera. I've seen that one time solve the problem, which makes no sense. But at least it's an easy thing to do. Take another test exposure. And this does look like new data. Let's do a plate solve. That looks... Not sure if that's right or not. It seems like it's wrong to me, probably. But we'll annotate it and find out. Yeah, so explain that. We have... It's apparently showing us now the image that it probably tried to frame up on after the meridian flip. But at this point in time, we are actually aimed at Polaris, so we should not be getting this image whatsoever, nor annotating the Witch Head Nebula and Rigel. We should be seeing Polaris. Just to illustrate this as proof, let's just simply deselect the main camera and the guide. Set the guide as the main camera. It's 120 millimeter focal length, about 840 effective with this little camera on it. And we'll do a 2-second exposure. And there is our updated screen. Plate solve on that, and there you have the correct plate solution. This is where we are. Wrong thing. Let's annotate. And I don't know why it can't annotate Polaris there. Maybe it's not sharp enough or something. But with that done, I'm going to slew toward the west. I think this is Cassiopeia that I am trying to kind of aim toward. Let's see. Bring it up a little. Maybe that's good. Let's see what our guide scope gives us first off. So we've got an update there. There's our new plate solution. We'll sync the mount to that. Annotate. And we do have annotation here now. Okay. And there's Navi over on the left. Anything more? I don't think so. Okay. So now, let's switch back to our D850 as the main camera. I'm going to go ahead and reset the ISO back to the desired one so I don't forget that. Reselect our guide scope. And let's go ahead and get guiding established here. Okay, so now let's capture a new image with the D850. Go for 10 seconds. I think that'll be enough. The sky is fairly dark. We've got pretty decent stars. We at least have an image. Let's see what that plate solves to. That still looks like it is going to give us Rigel again. You know, we've actually got what appears a somewhat different exposure. Let's annotate it. Yeah, so how can this be? Uniquely for the DSLR file path, the ASIAir Pro is somehow recalling image data from that path and using it instead of correct and fresh data for the latest capture. So at this point, the only thing I know to do, it may still not work, I've seen this fail, is to cycle the ASIAir Pro. I'm going to go ahead and put back in the external USB thumb drive because it is more convenient to work with, and it does not seem to be a player in the stale data. The stale data is being pulled from somewhere internal to the ASIAir Pro. Let's close the app also. Clear the cache once more. Go back into the app. Enter. What's really strange to me is it's almost like we're getting adjusted exposures relative to the fact that I'm choosing shorter times, but they're being applied to the old image, if that makes any sense. Let's go ahead and do 30 seconds. My histogram is up. So basically, the ASIAir Pro seems to be becoming useless, especially if you have to deal with data after meridian flip, where it's gotten into this mode of only working from stale image data. Let's see what this gives us. Yeah, once again, still there around Rigel. Yeah. This is just like so totally impossible. We have no clue where we're at. So let's go home. Trying to figure out some way to get this corrected. And I expect going home now is probably going to be wrong because it's not where it thinks it is, based on that Rigel solution. But it did. Okay. What happens if, for where we're at right now, we sync the mount? Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is, using the DSLR, I'm basically just going to check our polar alignment. I usually perform polar alignment with the guide scope because much quicker feedback, allowing for the updates. But let's see if we are still carrying a good polar alignment. I'll go with a 10-second exposure. Okay, now this is another clear illustration of the problem. Even for the plate solution, it would seem that the ASIAir Pro is trying to compare against the stale information that it's not purging out. Plate solved, too far away. No, we are not. We are pointed at Polaris, and once again, just to prove this, we're not even going to leave the polar alignment app. We're just going to go in here and deselect the Nikon camera, deselect the guide scope, set the guide scope up as our main camera, the way I normally do a polar alignment. Change the focal length to 120 millimeters. Turn it on. Change exposure to 3 seconds. And take a picture. So we're not moving at all. But yet, there we have data. We do our plate solution, and you see we are in the northern sky. So let's go back to polar alignment, retry. It solves that no problem, it looks like. Yeah. Maybe it does have a problem. I need to start it fresh. Okay. Oh, there's my problem. Reset the exposure to 3 seconds. There we go. Okay, we are rotated. Let's see if our alignment has drifted any or not. We're still well within highly accurate alignment, so we will just finish that. Okay. Return back to preview mode. We're going to reset our cameras. Okay, now, did the fact that it tripped a flag or something saying we've done a polar alignment, does that affect purging the main camera's image path and allow saving a new image? Let's find out. And we have what appears to be maybe correct data. Plate solve with the main camera, but no, it is still plate solving to the southern sky. So it's still going to annotate this as probably Rigel here at bottom left I'm not sure what we've got. Yeah, Rigel bottom left. So we are pointed at Polaris. We are polar aligned, but we are getting completely corrupt image information. So at this point, I don't know what to do to solve this. What do we do? How do we clear out all of the internal memory of the ASIAir Pro so that it has no stored image data to utilize? It's still working from the SD card. As you see there, I did plug back in the thumb drive, which has, what, 3 gigs of data on it. And I'll leave that switched over for the moment. Let's just try another capture and see what happens. And we see no change in the screen data. So that is evidence of stale information being used. I'm inside, but let me get here back to where I've got hopefully some good reception working for me. Just wanted to warm my hands up a little bit. Okay. So, I want to be sure we are recording still. Yes, okay. It's not going to really help insofar as knowing what I've got, really. But I want to capture some good images that I can use tonight. So what I'm going to try doing, this is definitely a workaround effort. Let's deselect our guide scope and set it up as the main camera. And we're going to use it to resynchronize our mount and then slew to the same coordinates I was using with my Nikon D850. That's not going to give me exactly the same framing because the guide scope is above the lens. I would need to make hopefully just some minor adjustments for that. But okay, so we've got that. So let me step back outside and see what I'm doing. What I'm going to do is once again slew over toward Cassiopeia. I may still be over there. No, I'm not. I didn't think so. I'm aimed at Polaris, so let's get some shift of the mount in here. Okay, we're looking somewhere toward Cassiopeia. Let's get in our test exposure. Sync our mount. And go to our intended location. Interestingly enough, it did not auto-center. Maybe that's because I don't have guiding or tracking on or something. I don't know. $509.29.732. Oops. Let's do a sync. And let's see what we can annotate here. No DSOs, okay. Let's go to 511 minus 734. Validated. I'll capture that. Annotate it. Still no name DSLR stars. Go figure. This is all so bizarre. So I'm going to reset the guide camera back to the ZWO, turn back on my D850. Oops. Okay. Let's try to bump up the exposure significantly. Let's go for 12,800 for 30 seconds. I can only guess that the no-name stars or DSOs for the image that we see here from the guide scope, the guide camera, could not be annotated, maybe because they're not quite clear enough. You know, they're not sharp, but still, I mean, I can visually distinguish some patterns there, and I would have thought that, you know, it can do a plate solution, so why can't it annotate? I mean, are there truly no name stars there to annotate? Now, I don't really believe we're looking at a correct image, but let's see how it annotates for us. Now, that said, it does seem like maybe Rigel, I think that's the same position we saw Rigel in earlier. I think this is old data. can look at my camera screen, I guess, and perhaps compare just by looking for the bright stars. Yeah, Rigel. So, let me deselect my camera from the controller. Somewhere here. I can't operate blindly. I was trying to look around with touch. I need to walk around and see where I'm reaching. Okay, so we are set up live view with my D850. And I'm going to do a 30-second exposure here. Go ahead and turn up the ISO a little higher. Since we don't have the annotation of the Witch Head Nebula here, that has me believing I need to be to the left of where we see Rigel. I don't know where this is. I think whoops. Just triggered another exposure. I didn't mean to. As bright as Rigel is, I think I can pick the brightest star here in the viewfinder on my screen and move it down to roughly where we had Rigel at before the meridian flip. Just go a little slower. Okay, and I'm going to guess that position is roughly the same as what I was shooting earlier before the flip. And with that, we'll go back to USB 3 control of the camera. Make sure I'm on bulb. Reset our ISO. Well, we can do that with the app. So while we're at 25,600, I have tried to frame the image similar to what we're seeing here, but with Rigel a little more, I would say, to the right and down. And I think the camera is upside down, so it does seem to me that maybe the ASIAir app is not correcting the image as I thought to a sky up position. I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and just capture an image. Let's see what we get, if anything. It's absolute nonsense to be having to fight this problem to this extent. I've got to believe this is, I don't know. Is this an ASIAir? Is this a general problem affecting others, or is it just that I have a bad ASIAir Pro? I have no way of really knowing. Okay, so we have a good image, finally. Now why? I have no idea. I manually took one with my camera, and that looks to be roughly where I would want. Let's go ahead and do a plate solve. Okay. Sync the mount. Let's annotate it. Now, before the flip, I had the Witch Head Nebula just clipped a bit at the top. Okay, it didn't annotate. Okay. So now it's clipped a bit at the bottom. So that looks to be pretty good. I'm happy with that. Let's go back and reset our camera to 1600 ISO. Resume our guiding somehow. Guiding in progress. Return to our Autorun page. See what the status is of that. We've done some power cycles. We've lost the progress on it. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. So what we want to do is, let's see, what time is it? 1:30 in the morning. I've got maybe 4.5 hours, maybe just 4 before I hit the tree line. So 4.5 hours. 4 hours is 240 minutes. 4.5 is 270. Yeah, let's just try 90 frames. It's probably more than we can get done by the time you factor in the delays. Whoops, wrong thing, Daryl. Five and a half hours away. I did my math wrong, didn't I? 5.5 would put me at 7 o'clock. Okay. Let's drop that off an hour. 70 frames. That's better. I'm not even going to bother with darks. I've got enough already from a few nights ago. Alright, let's get going. And at this point, I will stop my screen capture because I believe we've got everything solved to the point that the camera will be taking the photos it's supposed to, even though the ASIair can be counted on messing up and giving stale data once again.